Alright. So, tayo ngayon ay nasa fourth segment ng ating discussion. And we're now here on the second to the last article. No? This time we're going to talk about another political essay, but this one is more of a predictive one. Diba? Parang assessment kind of article. So this is called Philippines a Century Hence. Filipinas dentro de 100 años. Or in other words, Philippines after 100 years. Okay, yun yung literal translation niya. But ang inadopt na translation into English is Philippines a century hence. So our objectives are recognize the relevance of Rizal's writings to the context of the 19th century events, explain Rizal's insights and predictions based on his understanding of his time, and analyze his ideas of Philippine nationhood through this socio-political essay. So we're not we're not saying that Rizal here had become a Nostradamus. No, it's not like that. However, we have to take a look at it in the context of when Rizal did write this essay. No, kumbaga gaano siya ka well aware sa mga possible na impacts ng mga global events sa Pilipinas. So, medyo ang dating niya naman dito ay Rizal as a foreign studies student or Rizal as an international studies student. So, parang ganun. Now, the quote I took, no, is from the part where he was discussing what should have Spain, no, did when we were uh, still a new colony, no. A government that rules a country from a great distance is the one that has the most need for a free press, more so even than the government of the home country, if it wishes to rule rightly and fitly. The government that governs in a country may even dispense with the press if it can, because it is on the ground. It has eyes and ears, and because it directly observes what it rules and administers. But the government that governs from afar absolutely requires that the truth and the facts reach its knowledge by every possible channel, so that it may weigh and estimate them better, and this need increases when a country like the Philippines is concerned, where the inhabitants speak and complain in a language unknown to the authorities. So, diba, double-edged sword. Like, it's a suggestion, and at the same time, it's panunumbat. Parang, 'di ba? Dapat bigyan niyo kami ng free press. Ang layo niyo sa amin, 'di ba? Tapos hindi niyo naman alam na inaapi kami dito, no? Or kung alam niyo man, ang late niyo nang malaman. So, Rizal was well aware na nung unang taon ng pananakop ng Espanya sa Pilipinas, a lot of attempts were made to report the atrocities of the friars and the Spanish administrators to the king, no? But due to logistical challenges, these complaints did not reach the king as ASAP, no? And of course, a delayed complaint will result to a delayed response, no? Hanggang sa na-normalize na lang siya sa Pilipinas and um, naging super strong ng culture ng corruption among Spanish officials. Nakakolaborate ng mga Filipino elite, no? So, generally, napaka-corrupt na talaga ng political structure ng Pilipinas at ilang attempts man yung ginawa ng Spain to clean up the Philippines. They failed because, the friars are much more stronger than the monarchy here in the Philippines. So, yan yung sinasabi ni Rizal, no? Sana binigyan nyo kami ng free press, no? Malayang pamamahayag para nalaman nyo ano yung hinaing namin. But of course, sabi ng Mojo Fly, suntok sa buwan. Mojo Fly ba yun? Or Moonstar 88? I'm not sure. Anyway, so Philippines a century hence. What are the basic facts? This is a socio-political essay written in four parts, no, from 1889 to 1890. So similar to the previous article na Indolence, installment din ito, no, at nag-appear siya sa La Solidaridad. So it's a significant political work ng propaganda movement kasi it's a way to convince Filipinos, especially the elite, no, that they need to support the cause to call out Spain in its misgivings about the Philippines. As I was saying kanina, no, it's a prediction, assumption, assertion of the future of the Philippine political status in the next 100 years. Published between September 30 and February 1, 1890, it started by analyzing the various causes of the miseries suffered by the Filipino people. So to a certain extent, it looks like a continuation of the indolence, but this time it's more of, the futuristic look, 'di ba? Na kung hindi babaguhin ng Spain yung ways niya, what could possibly happen, ano yung mga possible na consequences, ano pa yung mga long-term problems. So, yun yung mga gustong i-point ni Rizal sa essay na ito. Then began a new era for the Filipinos. Little by little, they lost their old traditions, the mementos of their past. They gave up their writing, their songs, their poems, their laws in order to learn by rote mother doctrines which they did not understand. Another morality, another aesthetics, different from those inspired by their climate and their manner of thinking. Then they declined, degrading themselves in their own eyes. They became ashamed of what was their own. They began to admire and praise whatever was foreign and incomprehensible. Their spirit was dismayed and it surrendered. So yan, no? Rizal was trying to use geography as a framework, di ba? Parang there should be a culture relative to us, no? Dahil iba yung ating climate, yung ating setting. But, these things were not under the understanding of the Spaniards, and they did not respect our cultures, no? So, I want to go directly to the point, no, because the article itself is very lengthy. It contains a lot of other clauses. So, what are exactly Rizal's predictions? No? Kasi yun naman yung pinaka mabigat sa article. No? In 100 years, what could have happened to the Philippines? First, Philippines, one, no, might remain a colony of Spain. Sinabi niyang colony, an extension of Spain, they will have good terms with each other, no? Kasi Spain will be more liberal, will be more generous in giving extra rights to the Filipinos. Number two, the Philippines will try to cut the ties of our motherland from its captors through violent means. A revolution, di ba? And number three, and lastly, that we will be colonized by another country. So, this is the very unfortunate thing. Rizal wanted to showcase that these two things are different, no? That they are both parallel options, but who would have thought that, they will happen subsequently, diba? This one did not happen, at least between Spain and the Philippines after a few years, no? Ah, kasi talaga nawala yung colonial ties natin with Spain. Pero this particular prediction happened with the Philippines and US. Okay? Ako, that's my point, no? Point of view. Na US was never really away. Being an imperialist country, parang nature na ata talaga nilang mangialam sa mga internal affairs, and that they always been there. They've always been involved, that, they're just lurking in the shadows. But, they never totally gave us freedom. Ang mas unfortunate pa, number two, 'di ba? This did happen, no? We were free from Spain for a few months, but this followed it, no? The Americans arrived, and the rest is history. So this goes to show that Rizal had some powers to predict, no, and that he had these visions based on what he know, 'di ba? And it's a pretty impressive feat kasi itong lahat ay alam niya out of reading, no? So definitely tama yung forecast niya kasi sa essay nabanggit din niya na a lot of powers are possible na pumalit sa Spain. He is aware that, Spain as a power is declining, that Germany, Japan, the US, they're all rising powers and they may possibly colonize us. And in fact, yun yung mga binanggit niyang countries na possible na manakop sa atin. And uh, ex- except for Germany, no? US and Japan, no? They did that, 'di ba? Magkasunod pa. So, definitely Rizal knows his assignment. He also added that, you know, he attributed these unfortunate futures to what the Spaniards did, no? The military policies, it retarded the Filipino family life as a whole. Talagang sinira niya yung patterns of living natin. Pinaghiwa-hiwalay yung mga pamilya, no, nasira yung institution. Next, Spain deteriorated indigenous culture. No doubt, no? Pinatay ng Espanya yung kultura natin na katutubo. And lastly, Filipinos became passive and submissive to Spaniards. So sa point of view na Rizal, not only did the Spaniards killed our culture, no? Sa viewpoint na Rizal, yung pagkokondisyon ng mga Kastila sa mga Pilipino para maging submissive, no? It created more problems kasi nasanay na tayong hindi sumusuway, no? And ironically, 'di ba, mukhang may mga tao pa din na ganyan pa din mag-isip ngayon. Parang wag kang magreklamo, wag kang mag-comment, wag kang mag magsabi ng mali, no? Or wag kang magsabi ng puna mo kasi you're not supposed to do that, no? Parang very inferior pa din, no? Very submissive, very passive na kind of individual. Pero ang gustong i-assert ni Rizal, no, na sa kabila ng mga ito, no, nagawa pa din ng mga Pilipinong matuto, nagawa pa rin nilang um, maging marunong, no? At ironically, sa further na pag-push nila sa atin na mahirapan, marami sa atin ng mas lalo pa naging porsigido para mag-aral. At hindi naging naging solusyon yung pagpatay sa atin, no? Kapag sumusuway tayo kasi mas maraming nagiging matigas, mas maraming nakapapansin ng mga pagkakamali kapag mas marami silang gustong patahimikin. Okay? So, altogether, no, yung abuse of human rights, yung kawalan ng freedom of speech, yung hindi tayo represented sa Congress, all of these things contributed to the self-reliant Filipino. And that's the reason why Rizal predicted na in no time the Filipinos will decide their fate as a country, no? But yun nga, he did mention these predictions. First, political intervention ng UK, France, or US. Yan. Once na nag-declare tayo ng kalayaan. Number 2, bloodshed. Once a new colonizer tries to subjugate. Check. Nangyari yan. Philippine-American War. Philippines will go back to its maritime roots once again. So we will embrace daw our culture of, being water people, 'di ba? Parang water as a mode of transportation. Ito medyo siya, far-fetched na idea, no? Kasi naging car-centric tayo ngayon lalo dahil sa US. 4. The great American Republic with interests in the Pacific may one day think of acquiring possessions beyond the seas. Check. Japan will swallow us. 5. The Philippines will perhaps establish a federal republic. Yan. Imagine, di ba? Japan will swallow us. They did for 4 years. And Rizal was predicting that we will become a federal republic. Bakit po federal? Ang model niya kasi dito, Spain. No? Spain kasi is a federal republic itself. Hiwa-hiwalay yung cultures, traditions. Spain itself is not a unified country culturally, so they have to embrace the fact that, you know, they're different people. And for Rizal, that's the only way as well, no, to go separate ways, but as one country. Lastly, the Philippines will perhaps enter openly the wide road of progress and will work jointly to strengthen the mother country at home as well as abroad. In fairness, we had lots and lots of times we attempted to do this, but we're still a developing country, and hopefully we get to still see that day that our country becomes economically livable. So among those predicted, no, by Rizal, what did happen within a century? The Japanese invasion? Check. Only after 50 years. Philippine-American War? Yes. It's a check. Only after um, 8 or 9 years. Diba? And the continued resistance of the Filipinos against the Americans? Yes, it did continue. And it did happen. So, out of all of those predictions, sobrang daming na-predict na Rizal, and nakikita natin dito na talagang alam niya kung ano yung mga sinasabi niya. No? So, ano yung mga main takeaways? So, syempre, kinonect niya ulit sa indolence. Indolence, the Filipino is never innately lazy. It was a response to colonialism. Yan. And dito sa A Century Hence, the Philippines shall become a nation on its own. Spain can never stop it. Pero ano naman po itong about women? Yan yung ating sasagutin sa ating fifth and final installment. No? Ang sulat sa kababaihan ng malolos. So thank you for listening, and see you on the fifth part of our lecture.